Hi, my name is Mackenzie, and this is the Middle and Late Childhood Experience Translated. The biggest differences when we're talking about middle and late childhood compared to infancy is we're in the 6 to 12 years, it's slow, persistent growth, structural development, and pathways in the prefrontal cortex. This is not necessarily the development of the prefrontal cortex in action, but it is the beginnings, the bones. Stability of health with vulnerabilities. Children have a propensity and a risk for leukemia, cancer. A lot of accidents can happen in this age range, and this is where you build either really healthy habits or you build really poor habits that will follow you through adulthood. So, exercise, nutrition, emotional development, literacy, all of these things can greatly affect adulthood, and this is kind of where we're really going to see big changes in lifestyles. There's significant cognitive and identity developments in this area as well. The affliction that this group experiences the most is an exposure and vulnerability to bullying. This is probably in case of more social experiences, there's further development of self-esteem and self-efficacy and self-concept that are challenged in that experience. Bullying is defined as a verbal or physical action used to undertake someone else's power. This is not about being mean. It's not about being unkind. It is about a power grab in a lot of ways and how that applies to social structures and interactions. Children can be both the victim and the bully. They're in tandem. They're not separate. Erikson's attachment theory is another way that we remind ourselves that parents can be their children's first bully, or they can be their first safeguard. They teach them how to be a bully, or they teach them how to be a decent person. This is the basis of why that infant's connection is so important. Attachment theory is so relevant through the entire developmental span. Cognitive theories in relation to bullying, metacognition, the thinking and regulating of one's feelings, that is where we can apply the most understanding of how to deal with bullying. If they can feel in their bodies and their minds and their thoughts of I don't like this or this doesn't feel good, and then look outside of that, you can help your child process bullying as much as you can help them not be a bully. If they understand that their feelings are just funky, they don't need to do funky, terrible things to other people. They need to deal with the feelings they're having. Perspective taking is another great understanding of other people's feelings and thoughts. This is where we can apply like I wouldn't want that to happen to me, so I won't do that to somebody else. Or uh, they're they're sad because of this, or being in somebody else's shoes. Pre-conventional and post-conventional reasoning, those are two tiers of the three-tiered Kohlberg's theory on reasoning. The initial tier is really just not doing things because there are rules and consequences, and the final tier is an application of justice and equality and fairness. There's a lot of criticisms in context to post-conventional reasoning because it applies to everyone in a situation of moral reasoning, not necessarily how it applies in each person differently. Some of the critiques in Kohlberg, some of the professionals who critique Kohlberg came up with social conventional reasoning, and it really uses the consensus of society and the application of understanding why things might be silly, but we do them because they matter. So like raising our hand. We raise our hand because we want to be able to talk. We want our teacher to be able to listen to us, so everybody needs to do it. Otherwise, it doesn't work. Attachment theory, again, we're talking about Erikson's theory that still plays a direct role. And then we move on to parental tools. So when we talk about tools for your child to develop and to avoid being bullied, deal with being bullied, and not be a bully, the implementation of collectivism versus individualism is going to be helpful. When we understand that we do things for a greater good or for a community, or it is a deeper connection to everybody involved, we can really change those those power grabs, because those power grabs are innately selfish and individualistic versus a collectivism that we share the experience, we share our time, our social interactions, and everything else. Mindfulness practices, this helps keep people with metacognition, keeps them in their body, in their feelings, really processing and not, just sharp reactions, poor interpretations, the absolute lack of reasoning. These are all very applicable. Recognition of attachment and role shift This is where you acknowledge where your attachment was, how the attachment works throughout the child's life, but also understand that parents are now managers. They're not necessarily the same guidance and caregiver that they were. You are making sure to sign them up for things so they can socialize, so they can exercise, sports, drama club, friendships, making sure they get to school. These are all your applications of parenthood, and that's really a management place. There's also the need for structure around that, so you're still going to have uh, the authoritative parenting style where like there is expectations, there is structure, there is reasoning. We are going to do these things. These are things you like. These are things that are important, but also like not negating a child's feelings and not ignoring them and forcing them into things they don't enjoy. Proficiency in bullying policy for the school your child attends is so important. Do not wait for a crisis to start addressing this issue. Um, I think that shared journals between parents and children are an incredibly useful tool to maintain vulnerability with kind of a comfort zone, as well as maintaining literacy skills and writing skills. These are just easy. After hard days, after good days, let's write letters to each other. Let's write letters about what worked, what didn't, how I feel, how I didn't feel, how I wish I would have something was addressed, how I wish my mom would have helped me with this, how I wish she would have stepped back. This is where you create that open, comfortable communication with your child. Books. We don't need to buy a bunch of toys and programs and apps and everything else. Let's think about books. Support language, support reading skills. These are developmental pinnacles to middle and late childhood that are going to carry on through their life. And also, this is going to help with working memory when they can pull from experiences they read about in their favorite characters. This is going to, it's going to give them all the tools that they need and further help that social conventional reasoning and the metacognition and the mindfulness abilities when we can apply our understandings from these things that we really enjoyed, like these fun books. I have an attachment, or a hyperlink, pardon me, for Reading Rocket. It shows different books for different age groups about bullying and how you can pick them based on their age and their themes. I think that that is a much more productive tool. Shared journaling, indirect vulnerability, further support, and it further supports literacy skills. Uh, Books supporting moral reasoning and social conventional reasoning and further development of empathy. Like, again, these are resources that we can use that cover things we already have to do. We need to make sure they read. We need to make sure they understand people. We need to make sure that they can think outside of themselves. We need to make sure that they understand social constructs. This is where you're going to get the most help from it and the most fun. So my references are the lifespan development and a journal on how to journal with your child to foster a deeper connection. Thank you very much for being part of my presentation.